What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to talk about some key levels to watch for as time goes on and what happened to Tesla's earnings calls. We have some new updates. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 for free Nvda stock. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvidia plus a $100 cash reward. Deposits $10,000 or more to get $300 worth of Nvidia plus $100, or deposit $50,000 or more to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock plus $100. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon. So please use my link down below to sign up to get all these benefits. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening to Tesla and the markets. So Tesla just had their earnings, and unfortunately, the share price is down. Right now, it's down about 3.48% as of right now. We got a bit of a sell-off on Tesla. The question is, why did this happen, and how will this affect the markets? Well, the market's still holding up despite Tesla being down, and Tesla is also holding support at 420, which makes me think it's going to gap down tomorrow. But then we're going to see if Tesla could try to bounce after that, because earnings was not necessarily bad. I think that there were some aspects of earnings that were quite good for the share price, and other things were not as good. And we're going to see if Tesla could bounce from here or not. We might see a small bounce before continuing to dump lower, or it might just be the opposite, we just continue to fall. It depends on how we end up opening and what kind of reaction we get. The overall market saw wicks forming on SPY and the QQQ, so there might be some kind of rebound attempt coming, but then we'll watch and see if this leads to a lower high and a rejection or not. So we're going to talk about what's happening on the charts in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about Tesla's earnings call just really quickly. So unfortunately, there was some bad news that came out, and I think this is very important for the broader markets. The bad news is that Tesla's overall earnings, their EPS, is down 31%. It's at 50 cents per share, whereas revenue is up 12% to 28.09 billion. We were hoping for 56 cents per share when it comes to their EPS. We came just short, hitting 50 cents. And then revenue, instead of being 26.5 billion, it was actually at 28 billion. So revenue beats expectations. However, looking at the sharp consensus right now, there's going to be a lot of things that make things a little bit more tricky for Tesla. So just real quick, we had record deliveries globally, showing lots of strength and growth across all regions. They also saw record amounts of energy storage deployments across the residential, industrial, and utility sectors. That was great news. Their margins, however, got slimmer despite the fact that we saw a big increase in their overall numbers. Now, despite that, they did once again launch the new performance models, the new models for the Model 3 and the Model Y that are going to be a lot more affordable. Those are supposed to help to offset the pain that could be coming because of the ending of the EV tax credits. And then on top of this, they're trying to scale and work on other AI developments to really offset a lot of their other developments as well. So that's what's been going on so far. You guys can see this is the balance sheet, the financial summary. Right now, things are not looking that bad. The total revenue did go up, but once again, some things are not looking as good. So for example, if you look at their overall margins, so like right over here, we saw a slight decrease in this quarter compared to the previous quarters and then other periods. And then if you look at the net income that comes for, the non-GAAP income, that's also kind of like flat right over here. So that's something else worth mentioning. You can see the EPS right here. Although it's an increase compared to previously, it still is below expectations. And it's also down compared to the previous year. So there were some goods and ups that came out, an increase in deliveries, but there was a lower regulatory credit revenue. And we started to see a lower one-time FSD revenue recognition. Not the best of news there. And then cash flow, also we saw a slight increase in free cash flow. Besides that, this is what like the charts look like, at least for now, at least for Tesla. And then I'm not going to go over every single detail. Just a couple of points that Elon Musk and the team were talking about. They were talking about how Optimus is developing and they're trying to work very hard on the hands. But honestly, Elon Musk and the team were being very, very honest with employees about this. So, the truth is that although Tesla has a lot of AI developments, lots of growth coming, the long term is very, very bullish. It's very, very bullish for Tesla. But to get to that very, very bullish phase where they scale production of Optimus, it's going to require a lot of hurdles. So it's not going to be easy to just suddenly scale these robots. You're not just going to instantly build a million robots and make trillions. It doesn't work that way. It's going to take time. They have to work on developing the hands. The hands are very, very tricky to develop. They have to work on developing the forearm area. They have to work on developing the chips and the AI learning technologies. Then they have to try scaling it into like the millions, which is going to take years. So there's a lot of work that has to be done for them to reach those goals. It's not just going to happen overnight. However, the energy sector was doing very, very well, and they're working on developing their robotaxi, which will continue to grow in more regions. Musk also mentioned that in 8 to 10 regions, we should be seeing the robotaxi expanding to them in about like the next upcoming months. So there was some good news that came out involving that. However, with the tariffs coming out, they're trying to offset the tariffs by producing where they're selling. So they want to like take advantage of the American gigafactories, the European ones, and the areas they want to be selling their vehicles. And then Elon Musk talked about the Samsung chip deal, how their AI 5 is improving a lot of different ways. He went on about that. Then there was just a lot of talk about how the overall production is going to be scaling to 3 million per year, hopefully within the next 24 months. And then they went on about a lot of the growth that's likely coming. But despite the fact that they are trying to expand their robotaxi, you have to remember that there are a lot of cautions that Tesla is taking. So they can't just suddenly have these FSD self-driving cars and put them everywhere in every street corner. They have to go through regulations. There's going to be a slow process where they have to be as safe as possible. Musk made that very, very clear. So we shouldn't be expecting the robotaxi to be everywhere in the next year. It's going to take like many years to really expand like crazy. But slowly, what's going to happen is that in certain areas, there's going to be less regulation. Eventually, they're going to be able to have them without passenger safety monitors on the side. That's going to happen in a couple of months. Then slowly, they're going to be expanding to more areas. Of course, in areas such as like the Bay Area, there has to be a human passenger on the side to watch in case anything goes on. And slowly, 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 there's going to be less passengers on the side, less things will be needed, and eventually there's going to be more autonomy being attributed. But it may take a while, may take many months just to get started with that part and eventually expand more. It's not necessarily an overnight thing, it's going to take some time. Besides that, there was some news that came out involving the US and India. Once again, they're working on some deals right now as India is looking to reduce its Russian oil imports. And there's not really anything else too crazy on the news involving tariffs. Also, know that tomorrow is going to be Thursday, October 23rd. At 11 o'clock a.m., we have the Kansas Fed Composite and Manufacturing Index. Then we have some bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. We have home sales at 10 a.m., which is not that important, but I think there might be some volatility around 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Because of the government shutdown, initial jobless claims will not be coming out, so just keep that in mind. Finally, this is what the earnings calendar looks like. We have American Airlines tomorrow morning alongside Intel. Nothing too serious is coming out for the rest of the week. We do have Ford, though, a couple more like smaller ones. No big tech earnings until like next week or later. So what do I think is going to happen? So tomorrow, Tesla will likely gap down. And then we're going to see if we could base at 420. If 420 holds, then we could be looking for some kind of attempt to bounce. We may even try to fill the gap. It's possible Tesla bounces just a little bit, but then I can't guarantee we're just going to take out these highs. We could bounce a bit back up towards like 430 to 435 to retest these EMAs, and then we could be looking for some kind of rejection move. That's what I think Tesla will likely do, forming a left shoulder, head and right shoulder like this. I think that's what Tesla will likely be doing before we start to fall again. That is the most likely possibility. To be bullish, you need to reclaim 440 at the very least, but I think Tesla might come a little bit short. And if we just lose 420 right off the bat, we could just dump from here. That's also another possibility, which I don't find to be as probable. I think it's more likely we try to bounce a little bit. We might touch 420, consolidate, and then we're going to be looking to see if Tesla could bounce a little bit for like a 430 retest. But then we might not just continue to break out. It might just be a small rebound before continuing to fall. I think Tesla might be forming a left shoulder, head and right shoulder. And then this right shoulder might be leading to another rejection to fill this gap. And that's when Tesla might be coming down to fill the gap at 395. And then once we fill the gap, we'll see if Tesla bounces. That is my prediction for now. So watch your levels just to be safe. I think the overall market is going to kind of follow this trend. So tomorrow, It depends on what SPY does. If we lose 665, there's going to be a risk of us dipping towards 662 or below, then 658, and then our 655 area at the 200 EMA. If we break past 670, we could try to push back up for like the all-time high if we hold above those levels, but I don't think that's very likely. I think that's tomorrow we see a small bounce in the morning for like the 670 area. Maybe we go a little bit above it, and then we could be looking for another rejection forming kind of like a double top here, and then we might be looking for another downside move maybe if we do get that rejection. But tomorrow I think we bounce a little bit. We could be looking for a 668 to 670 retest, and then we'll see if we get a rejection on SPY and continue to fall. That's the most likely possibility following Tesla, most likely. When it comes to the QQQ, if we end up losing essentially 600, we're looking for a dump back down. If we bounce and we end up breaking past 610, we're looking for a bigger move back up. I wouldn't be surprised if we retest 608 to 610, but then we could reject there and continue to fall back down if we make a lower high here compared to this high. So this could be like a double top rejection, and then we could see the QQQ reject if that ends up being the case. So be very careful. On the IWM, we're forming wicks below. We're going to see if we rebound as well for 245. If we get back above 248, we're looking for a bigger move up, but I think we rebound a little bit. And then if we can't take out that high, of course, we could always turn back down. And don't forget, there's still that gap to fill back down towards 237. So that's a hint for why we might be dipping lower on the Russell. On ES, we're already starting to rebound, so I think we rebound a bit tomorrow for 67.50. We'll see if that breaks. If so, we could be going back up to like 67.80. Could be a 67.50 to 67.80 retest, then we'll see if we get a rejection. If that's the case, we could be dipping back down to about 6,700 or below. So we need to take out 67.80 to turn back up. If we don't, this might just be like a temporary bounce and a rejection, just like this on ES. On NQ, we're seeing the same thing sort of like developing. We're rejecting near 25,400. We have support at 24,800. We could rebound from the low 25,000s. So 25,136 to 25,200 could be tested. And then we're going to see if we reject or not off this. So if we break 25,400, we're looking for a bigger move up. But as of right now, we could be making lower highs here, and there is going to be some kind of risk of us turning back down. So be very careful. On Bitcoin, we're making lower highs over and over again, but notice we're trying to base at 106,000. This could be a sign that Bitcoin may bounce temporarily. Now, if we lose 106,000, we're looking for a bigger dump, but if we break past 110,000, we're looking for a bounce. Might rebound before continuing to fall just like this, so keep that in mind. For Tesla, once again, we're going to gap down tomorrow. If we don't hold 420, we could just start dumping immediately to like 402. But I have a feeling it's going to like gap down and maybe bounce a little bit. It might retest like 420, shuffle a bit, and then try to rebound for essentially like 430. And then we could be looking for another move right back down. And this also resembles a head and shoulders on Tesla. I believe that's what Tesla will likely do. Also, keep in mind when you pull up our key fib levels, if you look at this, we could be retesting our 0.618 fib level, which happens to be around that 437 area to 433. So there might be a small bounce to the low 430s to form that right shoulder before potentially turning back down. On NQ, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We have resistance at 181.8 and resistance and support at 178. A wick formed here, so we could be looking for a 182 retest, and we'll see if we reject from there and continue to fall. Look for a small bounce for 182, and we'll see how it goes. On Appl, we're making lower highs here. We might rebound a bit on Appl for 262 to 265. We need to take out this high to remain bullish. If we come short, we could still reject and turn right back down, so be very careful. Netflix dumped quite a bit after earnings. It's possible it tries to bounce with the market tomorrow after dumping so much. I would not be surprised if that ends up being the case. Could try to retest 1150 for a temporary move back up towards this support becoming resistance, and we'll see how it goes from there. On MSTR, we're making a higher low, so it could try to rebound for essentially 288, and we'll see how it goes from there. Celsius is looking a bit more bearish. We're making lower highs here. We're going to see if we reclaim 62. If not, we could be dipping back down towards 60. For Supermicro, we're making lower highs here. We need to get back above 54. If we don't, it's not going to be a good sign. So I think we might retest 54. Then we'll see if it rejects. Might see a temporary bounce. I think that Palantir is going to rebound a little bit for 178, and we'll see if it rejects there. Look for a temporary bounce. Rivian is just consolidating. It might consolidate near 13 for a small rebound before continuing to fall. SoFi might end up retesting 27.73 to 28, and we'll see if it turns. AMD might be retesting 233.5, and we'll see what happens after that. And then ARM is also range bound right here, but it could be retesting 168 before it potentially turns as well. And we also have, PayPal, which kind of has like an inverse head and shoulders. I think it might retest 69.5, and we'll see if it could break past that to bounce. There is a possible bounce that could be coming to PayPal. Might wick like this first before it bounces. Might wick a little bit and then bounce for like 69 to 70. We'll see how it ends up holding up. Coinbase has a double bottom here. Could be looking for a pushback up to 333, and we'll see how it goes. On Amazon, we rejected here, but notice it's trying to hold our 20 EMA, which means it could be retesting the low 220s before it turns back down again. So keep that in mind. Meta is also forming a double bottom, looking a little bit more bullish. If we lose 725, we're looking for a dump, but hold above 733, then we're looking for 740 as our target. So for now, there's upside potential for 740. This could try to rebound a little bit, and we'll see if it rejects. But I do think this might try to push a bit after forming a wick right here for 735 to 740. On Google, we're kind of flat here. Might retest 255, but we're completely range bound between 258 and 250. Might pop a bit, then come back down and continue to consolidate. Microsoft is trying to make higher lows here. Could be looking for an attempt for 524, and we'll see if it turns down or not. And then Oracle's on a bit of a downtrend. We need to get back above 276. If not, we could be dipping back down towards 270. And then DJT is dipping. We have support at 15.4, and we'll see how it goes. The VIX is dipping as a gap to fill, which makes me suspect SPY and the QQQ go a little bit higher. The 10-year is dipping. The dollar is also dipping, which is another bullish sign. So I think we get a temporary bounce tomorrow. That's the most likely possibility. Based off technicals, we could retest 668 to 670 on SPY. The QQQ could be retesting 608, but then we might not go back to all-time highs. It might just be a small bounce near our 0.618 or 0.5 fib levels, and then we could be looking for a rejection. There's a very, very, strong possibility of another rejection. We will see what happens with the news and how we end up reacting. So we're going to take it one step at a time. Tesla will gap down tomorrow, but the question is, will this be a head and shoulders like pattern? Can we get some kind of bounce if we could hold 420? Sometimes that happens. See how this looks like a left shoulder, a head, and maybe a right shoulder forms. Maybe Tesla kind of like dips, kind of like shuffles around 420, then starts to bounce a little bit for the low 430s. And then we get that rejection of this trend line. That is what Tesla could be doing. And then we could be looking for that gap fill towards the 390s. Just keep that in mind. That's another possibility on Tesla. So let's see if we could bounce a little bit with the market, and then there could be another rejection coming. That's what I'm seeing so far. Earnings were not necessarily bad for Tesla. They weren't great, but they weren't bad. I would say some things were really optimistic, very, very good. Revenue went up at least, but once again, their margins are not the best. And then there are some really pragmatic things that investors are looking at when it comes to the valuation of Tesla. Tesla's not necessarily just going to the trillions in revenue instantly. There's going to be a long process for them they have to go through. So keep that in mind. But anyways, that's it for this one. I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your guys' days, and peace out.